October 19, 2021. This is Kingston Planning Board for this day. It's our public hearing night. And just for the record, we do have a quorum. We have, let's see, we have two of our alternates here, and so both of them will be voting for what little business we do have to do tonight. But for the record, we have alternate Steve Hadfield, who will be a voting member, Peter Coffin, board member, Glenn Koppelman, Alan Faulkner, administrative assistant, alternate, who will be voting, Chris Bashaw, board member, and town planner, Glenn Greenwood. So we have 1, 2, 3, 5.
Yeah,
Five.
You got better. We're better.
5 works better for votes.
Nice odd number. Oh, there we go. So it goes.
She's the only one. Is that cute?
Well, we just started up, and we were saying, oh, we have 5 members, so we have a nice odd number of voting members. And now we have Robin.
Now everything's going to be a tie.
Now it's even.
What are you doing tonight?
I also realized the 2 people that I texted to say I was running late are not here.
They're
So you're the winner in that pool, huh?
Striking out all over the place.
Well, we can't replace Richard.
No, we can replace Lynn and replace Peter, so
Yep.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, that's the
We still.
I was gonna say no, because I kept thinking we can't replace Richard,
Yeah.
but I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, so,
Okay, so Robin Duguay, board member, has joined us. That gives us 6 members.
nice even voting number.
Nice even vote. The agenda is pretty innocuous tonight, so I can't imagine that we would get into
Don't,
a contentious
don't, that's a
tying vote of any kind, but you never know.
Apparently you don't know me.
kiss of death, right?
First order of business is the public hearing for tonight, which we have a request to continue. And so I believe you received notice of it by email, but for the record and for the request, this is a letter from SEC and Associates dated October 14, addressed to this board, and it's a request for continuance. Dear board members, please accept this letter as a formal request to continue the public hearing to the next available planning board hearing date. Additionally, please extend the 65-day review period for an additional 65 days. Thank you for your consideration. Respectfully, Charlie Zilch, project manager. And this is for, I should have read this first, TTAD LLC, which is Granite Fields Commercial Condominiums Project. It's an application for an amended site plan, and it's tax map R3, lot 4, land unit 1 on Diamond Oaks Boulevard in Kingston.
Okay, so moved to the next.
Well,
No, or do you
we
wait?
need a time and a date.
That's what I said. So moved to the next available.
In 65 days' time.
I'm just checking to make sure the next available is good because RCCD did respond, and that presumably is what they were waiting for, but it just came late, right? So it came after their request.
We already got our CCDs today.
Right, yeah, and so I saw that come in, but I realized it's too late for them to have been able to respond to it.
Correct.
So that means that they will be ready for the next, so which we don't want to do November 2nd?
No, you can't do November 2nd anymore, you have to do November 16th.
16th.
Yeah.
Okay. So 6:30?
So moved to November 16th
6:30.
at 6:30. Wherever they come up on the list.
Do they need to bring
What's the
any more
deadline?
plans?
Yeah, new plans would have to be
Yeah, because they're
provided
gonna have to get
by
revised based on
Thursday for,
November 4th of June.
So
okay, I'll second that.
For noon, and the date is for the 16th of
Yeah.
November. Motion by Chris, second by Peter. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Any opposed?
good time.
Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
Like,
I'm gonna make noise anyway.
All right, we have, it doesn't list the minutes on here, but,
No, I didn't because I wasn't sure.
all right. So we have two sets of minutes that we're gonna take up.
There,
I didn't get a chance to read through those once I saw the email.
August 17th. And that was the one that everyone was ready to accept, and I said, don't, I know there are corrections.
No, there were mistakes in,
And the other,
And the other is September, September 21st.
right. And the August 17th, you sent some corrections that you knew just today that you need to make. And I had a question about Bill All, A-L-L, and did you use just a phonetic pronunciation? Did you have his name already, or?
Who are we talking about?
In the, let's see, page 3, I have it down here. Not Eric Poulin, you got his full name. It says, this is Smallpox Realty. It says Bill All, and you said A-L-L. And I was wondering if that's what you heard, or if you'd already had something else with his name on it, and knew if that was the right spelling. Or?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay, because there is a local name AHL.
It's AHL, it's AWL, but nobody spelled it, so.
Oh, okay, so we're just presuming that's the name, yeah, okay. Other than that, I would move that we accept the minutes as amended by your email today, and also the, on page 2, New Boson Road is be corrected to New Boston Road. Page 8, Mr. Koppelman would like to see that the site plan review, see that, just add N for
Okay,
on this.
so it was page 8.
Page 8, and Mr.
And
Koppelman,
an N after O.
yeah, on the site plan review, and then same page, you have in compliance as one word, so just add the space.
Oh, yeah, that's right, I missed that, sorry.
Okay.
Separate.
And that's all the squiggly underlines, nice,
okay, so the motion,
is to accept them as amended.
accept them as amended, including the ones that Ellen sent out and the ones that you just verbalized.
Right. Yeah, the
That's
last
for
one.
which date? August
August
17th.
August 7th.
I'll second.
Motion by Peter, second by Robin. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? None. Did you vote, Ellen?
I did.
Okay. So the motion carries 5 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention. And how about September 21 minutes?
Good to me. Anybody have any additions, corrections? And Merrill Lynn's not here, so I may have missed some typos. I'll move that we accept the September 21st minutes as written.
Second.
Motion by Peter, second by Robin. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? You voted right, Ellen?
I did.
So motion carries, 5 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention. Okay. So, we have a lovely correspondence folder full of goodies, so sit back, relax, and here we go. First one is for, this is Marlene Gillespie, 127 Main Street. Dear Planning Board, and this is dated, it's an email dated September 23. I am asking for an extension of 180 days for my work on the Kingston 1686 house. I have been working diligently to locate any plans for the septic. I have had no luck. I have been in touch with an engineer who is willing to work on this with us, and I am asking for the extension so that we can put things in order and have things done correctly. I hope this will be considered, as we have been putting time and labor and money into the remodel. So this was for the addition of the salon business into the structure, into the building.
Make a motion to grant it, grant the extension of 180 days based on the request of the applicant.
Motion by Chris.
And I'll second that. And,
I was kidding.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's you were tentative.
I'm sorry, I didn't see what I was going to
Gotta be aggressive, Steve.
All right.
Get ready. There'll be more.
Steve, I'm gonna
So whoever you want for second, go ahead.
So who is the second?
2 seconds.
Yeah, give it to Steve.
Sounds like it's Steve.
He had the motion hand up first, I didn't see it.
Discussion.
And that, because it's the request of the applicant, it extends our, well, that's right, it was her, we don't, the time clock already.
Correct.
Yeah, we're past all
We
that.
approved
I mean,
it,
this is just
This is
a,
her
yeah,
time
that's
clock, yeah.
actually,
The extension to meet the conditions.
yeah, conditions, which, I mean, they're working on things that are important, and they're obviously actively working on it, so. Yeah.
They need some nuclear material that you can flush down the toilet so they can find the
All in
septic.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. And we'll anything change, we'll get a letter to the
Yeah,
applicant.
we've been in contact. by
Do you want to
email.
keep this separate?
Sure, that would be great.
All right. I'm going to read this. It's fairly short, but this is the letter that the board discussed at the last meeting. Chris, you haven't had the advantage of hearing the discussion about it, but it was in non-public session, so it would be appropriate for us to go into detail. We can either go into non-public session if you wanted to review it further, or we could talk with you offline about how it came to be. But I'll read the letter,
Yeah, let's see.
and then you can decide how you want to do it. But this was
I would not say her name.
oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. So this was for an abutter to a project, and after the hearing ended, there was some unfortunate interplay between the applicant and the abutter.
Okay, I already know what you're talking about.
Okay. And so the board discussed it and thought that it would be appropriate for us to communicate with the abutter, and you'll understand here in the wording. So the planning board has been made aware of an incident recently occurring following the planning board meeting on September 21, 2020. The board members were distressed to hear of the situation and wanted to express their concern that an incident such as this occurred following your participation in the public process. The planning board wanted to clarify that this type of behavior is not condoned by the board and express the hope that this does not prevent your continued public participation in any future public hearings or any other participation in future community and municipal events. And it will be signed by me if the board is okay with that and having me sign it.
Do we need a vote or just our affirmation?
We
of the
already
same?
authorized them to sign it, but we
Yeah.
just wanted you to hear it because we were
Right.
trying to not, to be-
Because when you authorized it to happen, we didn't have wording. And
Oh,
so
that's right.
I thought it would be appropriate for you to hear the words before I actually signed it.
I'll just abstain because I wasn't there for the legal discussion or the
Well, I don't
non-public, but-
actually, I don't think we
Okay.
even have to vote.
Oh,
No,
okay,
no, we don't.
yeah.
This is, it's really a courtesy to the board to make sure that
Yeah.
you're comfortable with the wording.
Yeah, I'm fine with it, that's good.
Based off my limited knowledge of what happened, yes.
Something else that was discussed at the last meeting was the request from the Capital Improvement Plan Committee to the various department heads in town, asking and soliciting for input on projects, potential capital projects. This board discussed the real need for an upgrading of the planning department's facilities here. It's been out of space for a long time. It's not serving the town well. It's not serving our constituents well, and our staff that works there is crowded. It's not a good work environment. So I took on the task of putting something together as a request, just so that we have something into the Capital Improvement Plan Committee for them to review. And basically, since we don't know what perhaps the best option is, I thought that maybe some sort of an investigation or a feasibility study might be the first step to take. You know, having somebody look at it, make some recommendations, and then go from there. And I had to pick a number, a dollar number to put in here. And just from my experience in things like feasibility studies, it's hard to get anything decent done for much less than 10, and usually it comes in more like at the 15 to 20,000 number, depending on who you've got and what you're doing and whether or not you're producing, you know, engineering drawings and that kind of thing. So I picked a number in between. I picked a $15,000 number. I mean, it's not committing money. It's just saying that. What did I say here? The type of project, there are check boxes that you have to pick. The one that I picked for the type of project was to expand capacity of existing service level facility. The service area of the project is basically for the municipality because it covers our community. The project description: undertake study to evaluate planning department space needs and make recommendations for improvements. Then there's check boxes for why we feel this is needed, basically the rationale of the project. And 3 boxes seem to be appropriate, and one of them is to alleviate substandard conditions or deficiencies, improves the quality of existing services, and provides added capacity to serve growth. Those were the 3 rationales that I checked off. The narrative justification section I had to fill in, and I wrote, the planning department has outgrown its current office space and requires a more appropriate facility to provide an adequate level of service to the community. And then you have to put in a dollar amount. I put in $15,000. And then there are various categories, you know, whether it's a construction project or site preparation or whatever. And the one that fits this project is planning and feasibility analysis. And I didn't have a source of money because it's not like we have a grant that we've identified that's going to cover it. So for purposes of submittal, I just put in that we would probably submit a warrant article for that. So it's really FYI, I guess.
Yeah.
But if there's any discussion about it, if you feel the number is not right, we can adjust that before we submit it to Mr. Greenwood so that for inclusion into the pack.
Yeah, I would just ask, you know, you probably just obviously make the selectmen aware that that's something that I'm not sure if it could be eligible for ARPA funding because it's a space issue between
I
having
think
occupied
we've heard from the
persons.
selectmen that if they get another thing with requesting ARPA funding, they're gonna lose their mind. But, you know, that's gonna be their decision, but I agree with you.
My grandchildren are gonna be paying for it, so I'd like as much of it to come to Kingston.
I don't disagree. But, the only thing I might do is where it says warrant articles, I might say / existing building fund. Because they usually don't like an additional warrant article placed when it has stuff to building, because it then gets confused when they have a warrant article to add money to the building fund. So,
And in your scope of service on that, Glenn, did you include or I guess a recommendation for me if it's not covered is if applicable, provide engineered plans for new space, because I mean, if you have that kind of money, I can't, I mean, a feasibility study just itself without providing plans for possible new space, I don't think that would cost 15, but I think you are right if they actually had to get into any type of engineered drawings to reconstruct space. But I'd hate for us not to be able to get the plans done within that if it's not specifically limited in the scope of work.
So under project description, right now I have undertake study to evaluate planning department space needs and make recommendations for improvements. And
Provide engineered plans if,
and provide appropriate,
yeah, I
I
guess.
don't know if we want to call it an engineering plan, it might not be an engineering
could be
plan.
architectural.
Could be architectural.
Yeah, appropriate planning services.
Provide,
Architectural renderings,
Yeah.
kind of like that term.
We do things like that.
Like I said, I'd hate for us to be like, okay, well, we did the feasibility study and now there's no money to actually get engineered plans because we didn't list it in there.
appropriate drawings. Plans, etc. to facilitate implementation.
Remind me before the next meeting to change out this table.
Squeak.
Put that on.
So it now-
Steps in this week.
So it now reads, and provide appropriate drawings, plans, etc. to facilitate implementation.
Is this typically how this is the process to do these types of projects, or is this something that we could identify grant funding for?
Well, I mean, it is possible that we could investigate grant funding, and by doing this, even though we've suggested a warrant article, it doesn't prohibit us from seeking grant funding to help with it. And had we had some grant funding identified already, we would put it in here, but this was sort of, kind of last minute, and we haven't done a lot of homework on it yet. Anything else on this? So Glenn, I realize it's late, but, by your deadline, but we haven't met yet, so. Are we gonna be meeting soon,
I have to do another solicitation because I've only received 4 back.
including this one?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Have we got anything from the budget committee with them telling us who their representatives are?
Yes,
Oh, good.
yes.
And at some point, the planning board's gonna have to decide who its representatives would be, and we normally have 2? Yeah. 3?
I thought you had 3. Budget committee has 2, you have 3.
Yes, right.
You guys usually,
That's Robin.
We haven't had 3 ages.
No, we haven't, but I think we're allowed 3.
yeah, but I thought it was you and
And
Robin.
Robin, yeah.
I thought you already figured it
I
out.
feel like I got volunteered for something that I have not done anything about just yet.
Right, well, as you know, last year was a little different.
We lost 18 months.
We
Well,
didn't
we never met last year because of COVID. And, Glenn put most of it together, without us, and, so.
And should it be Glenn, Peter, and Robin? As extending your,
Sure,
Yes, Robin, would you, is that okay?
Yeah, I did.
unless,
Without
unless,
really even knowing what I was going to do.
unless
Volunteer.
Chris
You can't, don't give her the opportunity to take
Unless
that.
Chris or Steve would like one of those spots.
I respectfully decline.
The Capital Improvement Plan Committee, it's a subcommittee of the planning board.
All right, I'll do it.
Well,
in which case,
So should I?
I'm perfectly willing to step down from that.
You're gonna step down, Peter?
Yes, since,
Sorry, Robin.
it's.
It's too slow.
straightforward. You just-
Literally have my mouth open. I think
You did, I heard you saying it.
Did I step on your toes?
Yes, you stepped on Robin.
it's
I
fine.
think it's good to get good, but you can still have the leadership of Ben and Glenn,
It's,
Ben, Darren, Jane, Ross.
No, it's good.
well, I had already talked to Glenn and said, I think it's time for me to step aside on this, but I.
Too late.
It's too late for that. And it's, Robin, it's not a heavy lift anyway. It's-
Well, thank you.
So, it's, but it is something that's very important. It's one of the tasks that we do, and it's an advisory, well, you know, it's advisory to the selectmen and the budget committee. And it's to identify capital projects and to try to
Even now.
space them out over a 6-year window, such that the effect on the tax rate is steadied, so that you don't have these huge peaks and valleys in the tax. Yes.
We require other boards who are putting in something from the CIP to meet with the Board of Selectmen.
Yes,
Will we need to do that?
we do.
Okay.
And you might not do it, but yes, we do need to do that. But if I mark it down like I'm doing, maybe I'll have a shot at remembering. That might also generate some other funds.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, which is kind of the whole idea.
And you can bring up Chris's thing, that they might wanna think about
Yes, yes.
additional
Correct.
funding and get it done sooner rather than later. Just saying.
Yeah, that's one of the steps in the process, is that when any department that submits one of these is supposed to meet with the select board to make sure that they're aware of it, to give them the opportunity to comment on it. Okay, are we all set on that one? So, thank you, Steve. Peter, you're off the hook this year? Okay. The bond balance list. Is there anything here that we need to be concerned about, Ellen?
Just, if you
Oh,
have
there's
to
a-
get in touch with Berkshire Dominion, or the, okay, great. That's the only thing that and I
Okay.
guess Heidi Campbell is $6 or something.
Well, theirs has been entirely used without me submitting anything, so I've asked them to give us 250,
Okay,
so
and did you get in touch with them yet, or will that just be Thursday?
that'll be Thursday.
Perfect.
So all of the bond balances are in the black, except for the one, as you identified,
And actually, this one is out of the chain.
Campbell. Okay.
Yeah. It's posted since then.
So Glenn, with regard to Berkshire Dominion, is that back into the black now, or
No, not yet. Not yet. I mean, unless they drop it off today, I would assume that they have not dropped it off today.
Okay, we have the monthly budget report for planning board. This one runs from January through early October. And there's nothing unusual here. We're underspent, and so that's good. Next one is a letter. I'll just say what it is, and if somebody wants it read, we can do that, but Ellen has put together a letter to Bresnahan Moving and Storage, explaining the vote that we took at the last meeting to provide an extension and some changes to the planting schedule. So that's here. That's what this is. Does anybody want it read?
And the explanation is basically just the motion, so it's not like I came up with something else, it's just the motion.
Right, it's in italicized quotes, and it's basically the motion.
Did we hear from the lighting guys? About the,
I think Richard
Am I
was gonna.
misremembering?
Richard was doing.
Sorry for the
Yeah, that was
direction.
That's okay.
Wasn't here today, I highlighted all the action items that were Richard's from our last meeting and put it on his chair along with, you know, the stuff the board was asking for, so he can follow it for the next time.
No worries. No worries.
Okay, the next item is a note that we received from the Planning Commission, Rockingham Planning Commission. And I probably should read this because I don't remember enough of it to paraphrase it for you. So this came to us on Thursday, October 7th, and there's a deadline of this Friday, next Friday, the 29th. Okay. It's addressed to this town. Rockingham Planning Commission is applying for funding through the Department of Environmental Services, local source water protection grants. Money through this program can be utilized to implement projects to protect drinking water sources. We are reaching out because we believe your community would benefit from receiving this free technical assistance. There is no required monetary match to participate. The RPC's proposal is to help municipalities update their local groundwater and drinking water protection regulations. The goals are to ensure that 1, municipal regulations accurately reference groundwater and drinking water resource locations as well as applicable state and federal laws, and 2, procedures and criteria for allowing uses within drinking water resource locations sufficiently protect, something's missing, resource locations probably to sufficiently protect drinking water resources. This project will focus on making minor to moderate amendments to municipal regulations. If the need for more substantial amendments is identified, RPC will provide the municipality with guidance on how those changes could be made in the future. RPC will also develop educational materials to help residents understand the proposed updates. RPC is seeking to work with several communities in the region on this project. We have selected potential communities based on the results of our 2019 source water protection gap analysis and a 2021 ordinance review conducted by New Hampshire DES. We envision meeting with each planning board twice to review the proposed amendments and then presenting them at a public meeting. The time frame for this project would be spring 2022 through spring 2023. If you are interested in working with the RPC, we simply ask that you provide a letter of support to accompany our grant application by Friday, October 29. We have included a sample letter here for your reference. If you have any questions, please contact Jen Rowden, who's the land use program manager and senior planner there at RPC. So RPC is applying for a grant to the state. If they get the grant, they will work with a handful of communities and help them identify areas within their regulations that might need to be updated and tweaked a bit with regard to water resource protection. So there's no cost to us, there's no match required. And at this point in the game, the only thing that we would need to do is provide a letter of support. And as she says, they've actually provided a draft that we can just plug our name into and send it back to them. Which it's a letter of support that goes along with the grant application, and it helps support their application to the state.
Well, there's certainly communities that need a groundwater protection.
Do they say when this will occur? Is there a time frame by which?
Yeah.
Spring 2023.
Spring 2023 to spring 2022, next spring, to the following spring, 23.
Right, the grant would have to be approved at the state level, and then they want to be able to make the changes for the town meeting in 2023.
But these are regulations they're talking about, so it's not a town meeting
Well,
thing.
some of them are ordinances.
Oh, some of them will be ordinances, okay.
Yeah.
They don't say that.
It doesn't sound like there's opportunity to perhaps offset some of the, overlay updates that we had asked
No,
Dana to do, right? That's wishful thinking.
Because it's not mapping stuff.
Okay.
It's wording stuff in the ordinances and regs.
Although they do mention something about location, in that letter, but.
Yeah, but the location that they're talking about has already been established by DES. It's the mapping that DES did about 4 years ago for all the communities. And so they'll use that basis of information for detailing
Obviously,
what
we keep
areas of
that
town will be targeted.
Do we need a vote?
If the board would like us to pursue this, if we would like to pursue it as a board, we should do this by motion, that we would, the motion would be to provide a letter of support to accompany the RPC's application for this funding.
So moved. I'll second it.
Good job.
You're fast.
Good job. She's primed now.
Yeah.
She's great.
He's going Jeopardy next. He's got to beat that. He's got to beat.
I've worked on the buzzer
Worked
beats.
on buzzer.
Motion by Robin, second by Peter. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm over.
Yeah, well. So that was unanimous. Any opposed, any abstention? Okay. So, do you want me to pull up the draft letter and get it back to you? Do you want to just do it?
Well, you have to sign it, right?
Probably.
So do you just want to sign it and forward it to them and send me a copy, or
Sure.
however you want to do it?
Okay, let me take a look at it.
Okay.
And,
It's really simple, and there's one area where they suggest that you put in just a couple of lines that deviates from the template.
Sure.
So that it looks like we're not just submitting their
Yeah.
letter of support.
although we will be, yes, yeah. I will do that. It's,
In Brentwood, we just added that we have worked with Dana Truslow on several projects, and we can basically say the same thing here.
and we have, and we've worked,
Since he's done it already?
this could be your task.
I mean, I have done it already. It would be very simple for me to do.
Hey, that's a grand idea.
It can't be exactly the same as Brentwood.
No, it will not be, well, she hasn't done the same things in Brentwood that she's done here, so.
I mean, in addition, we've also, years ago now, outside of working with Dana, we've worked with the Piscataqua River Estuaries Project. Great.
Well,
Correct. Yeah.
yeah,
On some projects like that, so.
no problem.
So Glenn's gonna do the letter, forwarded you to sign it, and then it's gonna be forwarded to RPC, is that correct?
Yes, I'll do that on Thursday, so you can turn it around quickly, Glenn.
Okay.
Thank you. Do you want this as a reminder?
No, I anticipated that I would probably be seeing that.
Okay. Next letter is from Jones and Beach Engineers regarding 4 Beach Drive in Kingston, tax map U12 Lot 3. Please find a copy of a standard boundary survey for Kevin Skinner, located at 4 Beach Drive. Please contact me with any questions. And this is just for our file, right?
So that's a non-jurisdictional survey.
Do we need to keep that in the planning board office, or should
Yeah.
it be in the property file? We should have it.
I mean, the requirement is that it gets submitted to the planning board. The RSA doesn't say where it has to reside. They generally reside in the planning board. But it might make more sense for it to be in the property file.
Here,
Nobody would.
so.
Nobody would. It's just the RSA says that one has to be given to the planning board. Nobody would ever get arrested for not doing that. That's why we don't always see them, but when they actually follow the law, it's nice.
It just seems to make more sense to put it in the property
It
file.
really does. It does.
would one have gone to the property file also?
No, the law just says you have to file it with the planning board.
Okay. And this was just because they did a survey and they're just,
Correct.
doesn't happen very often.
No, it's one of those RSA's that the intent is to make sure that the municipality is kept in the loop, but unless your surveyor does that, who the hell is gonna track that down? We certainly wouldn't have any way of knowing.
All right, and this one, Glenn, is one that, I'm gonna read this letter, but I thought that maybe it was something that you could have just done on your own, but you wanted to bring it to the
Oh,
board.
I saw that, yeah,
So, I'm guessing it's because there's some judgment call that has to be made here?
there is, the major reason I did it is because I'm not sure Ellie is really cool with me doing these,
Okay.
I think she's more comfortable having the planning board do it than just having me do it.
Okay. Let me read this.
She's never really said that. I get that feeling. I should have that discussion with her. And I haven't.
You should.
I should.
Because, I mean, you'll see where I'm going after I read this, but unless it's something that this board needs to weigh in on, I believe it's a zoning determination that can be done by staff, and we don't really need to be dealing with it, but, so here we go. This is from Aloha Overhead Doors, and it's nice, the letterhead has palm trees and it's, very summery, tropical. At 182 Highland Street in Hudson, New Hampshire, it's dated October 18, and it is addressed to this board. It's for property at 9 Main Street in Kingston. Remind me which is 9.
That's Safeway.
Safeway transfer, the bus, the buses.
Okay. Good afternoon. I am writing to you to request a letter stating that garage door business and self-storage are not currently listed as a permitted use for the above listed properties. We are attempting to purchase such property, and our purchase is contingent on the approval of usage as stated above. We do request you provide the letter in time for us to make the October 20 cutoff for the November hearing of ZBA. That's like tomorrow.
It is indeed. You are so clever.
And this is dated October 18. They gave us a whole lot of time.
They're moving very quickly.
All right. All right.
You told me.
I did.
I know. They came in today looking for the letter, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
It is our understanding that the property is currently zoned rural residential, and the permitted uses allowed do not permit our business needs. Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out any time. Best regards, Matt Francis, and it gives a phone number. So what they're looking to do apparently is to get a determination that in fact the use that they intend is not permitted, and therefore they need to be seeking a variance, and that's why they're going to ZBA. Is that right?
It's actually, it's a special exception that they can get, because
Is this the aquifer thing?
No,
It's the zoning.
Yeah, it's zoning, but it's not, it's not in the listed uses in the rural residential zone.
Right.
So actually, it might be a variance.
I think the variance
Yeah, it actually is a variance.
because unless it says special exceptions.
Yeah, it is a variance in this case, that they would have to be going for.
So why don't you just letter from the planning board saying, the use proposed in the letter is not a permitted use in rural residential
In the rural
zone.
residential zone.
Period.
That's it. That's all they need.
That's all
That
they
gives
need.
them what they need then to apply to ZBA for the project.
Correct. Wow, that was a dumb fly.
Take care of that later.
Slow.
That's everything in the herd right there. That one deserved to breathe.
So I think you see where I was going with the discussion earlier, is that, I mean, it's a call that I think staff can make and just,
And I really, I will talk with Ellie about that.
because if you thought that it was a gray area and you weren't sure, you really wanted to have the board weigh in on it, okay, but otherwise, if it's clear cut, I don't know why we need to deal with it. But you can have that.
And because you were meeting, I talked to her yesterday, and you guys were meeting today, I just thought I'd pass it by.
Sure.
Speaking of passing the buck, you have until noon tomorrow to get that letter to Susan
Yeah, I will get that, I'll get that to Ellen.
Because it was like,
Or
oh,
Susan. I guess Susan, she'll let you get it
you
too.
have to get it to Susan, I
Yeah.
talked to Susan already, and neither one of us knew what was going on.
Yeah, I'll get it to Susan.
This man was like, can I see you tomorrow? I'm like, no one's here. We will talk to Glenn, he will, if he knows about this, and it sounds like he does based on they were quite clear.
Yes.
Susan has asked, but I tell you, if she needs it by noon tomorrow.
She'll have it well before noon.
Okay, next item in our pile is something that I did up following our last meeting, where we were discussing ordinances and possible changes for warrant articles for zoning. And one of the items we discussed was regarding accessory dwelling units. And so what I did was I pulled up that section of the zoning ordinance and took the PDF, converted it to Word, and then I just made a couple of adjustments as recommended starting points for our discussion. And there are two places where it appears, and they're in red ink, red type. So one of the changes proposed is on the second page, and the other one is on whatever, a little further down. So, but it's in red, it's easy to see. So we're going to pass these out, and you put them in your folders for next meeting.
You got the red ink one?
Yeah,
Is that for the November,
Yes.
early November meeting.
the November meeting or this meeting on
Okay,
the
mine's black ink,
16th?
that's all right.
Oh, you're missing the page. Yeah, because it goes, that's 2063 is the next page.
2062 and then 2063. You got an original. It's
I
on,
don't have anything in red.
What?
yeah, in bold, it's in ours,
Oh,
which
it's
is,
bold online too, it's not
yeah.
bad.
He-
I'm going to send this out electronically.
I have it on
So
hold.
is your bold
And
say further
electronically,
when
we
the
write-
ADU? Yeah.
Oh, it's just on the first copy that it was red.
Yeah,
And the rest of them must have been photocopied.
Probably.
yeah, Steve's got that one.
Should we add a clear copy to our?
No, I don't know.
No, it's,
When I printed
I
these,
just didn't
I
use it.
didn't look at them to see that there was color, so it didn't, but you will be getting it sent to you and,
So you'll get it electronically, but whoever said it's in bold type is correct. That's because I did it in bold and red.
Thank you.
And it's on 206.4D. And
and that's just an addition, not there's nothing that was removed.
no, the two of these are additions.
Additions, right.
Nothing removed. The other one is in 206.4
4 M as in Mike.
M. And that was an added section. I added that on. But yes, both of them are added, nothing was removed. So again, for discussion at the next.
and this is the open space conservation subdivision one. This is not complete, this is just what the board has already said that they wanted to do. But Richard and Glenn are gonna be meeting to do any additional changes and stuff, so this is just the stuff that the board has already agreed they wanted done. And, just to get it started so people have things to look at. Yes. This one is in color. And it also shows the updated index and stuff, so we don't forget that. We just did this so that people remember what you've already talked about, and then decide whether you like it or not, and then there are other things that Glenn and Richard are still working on.
So, the last item in the packet is a request from the Board of Selectmen for confirmation regarding planning board conditional approval for Hawks Ridge. Remove one lot from the plan, which would have changed 34 units to 33. So, shall I read this?
Yes.
Or do you just want to
I
explain?
could just, Richard asked me to explain it, because at the selectmen meeting last night, he said he would bring it to the planning board, and then he realized he wasn't gonna be here, so he asked me if I would bring it up. There's been discussion about the houses and all the stuff that changed, and I'm not getting into all that unless I have to. At the last, approval by the board, which was a conditional approval, the board, part of the board's conditional approval, which I did bring, was to remove lot 20 from the plan. That in itself then made it a 33 lot project, but the plan still says 34 lot. The Board of Selectmen said, since the planning board removed one, there's no reason why the engineer shouldn't have made it say 33. You didn't need another planning board vote. They did that by removing it, and they would like the plan to be accurate and say 33 lots. They had that discussion last night with the applicant and his attorney, who I believe even the attorney I said that, well, that could just be a typo. And they said, right, so make it accurate. But the attorney gave the impression that the Board of Selectmen could not change an approval by the planning board, and they were no longer trying to argue that the planning board in itself, by its own action to remove one, already did that. So the board wanted to have the planning board confirm that their intention is that one was removed by the conditional approval, so therefore it is a 33 lot proposal. The Board of Selectmen's not changing anything beyond the planning board action, they're just asking for an accurate plan to be submitted with that number on it.
Yeah, because this was that lot that was like completely moved from like a different street, part of the subdivision.
Across the street.
The house was moved, but,
Yeah.
yeah, and the lot was built on.
Is that the one that has the open foundation still?
No,
I think that's been removed.
Oh, okay.
This is the one that has the pink house on it.
Oh, okay.
The
I
type
think
of
that's-
stuff.
So the action for us then is to,
I think they just want the board to confirm on the record that they did remove per the conditional approval, they did remove a lot, which just by math makes it a 33
not subdivision.
33 unit project, not a 34 unit project. So I don't know if we need to have a vote to confirm that, but
The
So
condition.
confirmed.
Well, yeah, if you wanna
by Robin.
make the motion that, what she
Robin
said.
already made the motion.
Right, now to make the motion, yes, she made the motion of what Ellen just read, correct? Yes. Second. And that's it.
But
I will,
second by Steve. Ellen,
reread what I think I'm writing.
Oh, right, yeah. When you say they, you mean the board, yeah.
As part of the conditional approval that the board gave at the last time that they were before us.
The intent.
You can put the date in there.
The action actually removed a lot, but the title of the plan still said 34, and it should have been corrected, should have been adjusted to say now 33.
Or, yeah, as Ellen put out, it's a unit because it's a condominium as opposed to a lot, which would be a subdivision. Yeah.
Okay, further, yeah.
Okay, this is what I have. Please amend this because I keep hearing different things. Motion is to confirm that by removing a unit as a condition of approval, the project has 33 units, not 34, and the plan should have been corrected. Is that?
Sounds great.
That's what you said, right, Robin?
Exactly.
It sounded like.
Steve seconded this or?
He did, Steve did.
Steve seconded.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That's unanimous.
Yeah, I think, given our history in that particular location, it's very good if the selectmen want to clarify that so it doesn't come up later.
Right.
Something doesn't pop up, so to speak, on concrete.
Well, that was okay. If like something was taken ahead of time, I would have
and saying, oh, the buttons aren't pushing.
Can I add to where we said project, the name Hawks Ridge, so it's
Yes.
clear? Is that okay with the motion? Okay. I mean, we talked about it earlier, but, okay. Thank goodness we're taking it. I think that's it.
So that is all we have on our agenda. Is there anything else?
I
The
gave
board-
everybody a suggested wording change that the board could consider as far as what could go in the buffer area of cluster development. Because we had a cluster development withdraw because they couldn't put stormwater devices in the buffer area, even though they generally look like natural features. And for the most part, they either are swales or detention ponds that look like natural features. It made that cluster go away and became just a conventional subdivision.
Which in the end, didn't turn out looking badly. I mean,
No.
they did a nice job with it. The houses are in different locations and,
Yeah.
you know, it's not just, so. But you're right, it was proposed as a cluster and it didn't.
So this would give some flexibility and we should talk about it.
So we'll do that, at our next meeting.
On November 2nd as well, yes.
So you have a copy of that wording from Glenn to consider.
So that was it, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. Anything else?
I would just ask that you be thinking about the food truck ordinance.
Well, we've got that stuff, Peter.
Yeah, I know, but these are instead of reading through all that, just the items that we need to be discussing are where in town and historic district will take care of their part of it, but, and whether we want to submit any questions to the police department for their input, because for parking regulations, they're pretty much the source of that. So before we write the ordinance, I think it'd be good to get the input from the police department as to where they would propose that food trucks be allowed.
I personally think, and I don't wanna talk about it anymore, cause now's not the time, that we should have hearings with business owners in town to get input from them before we write anything. But that's just my own personal opinion.
Right.
So, but now's not the time.
Right. Our next meeting is set aside for doing that.
Yeah.
And you handed that stuff out to us.
Yeah, I didn't send it out electronically, so.
Thank you.
Either do I have that electronically, did you send it?
Yeah, I did send it to you.
I thought you did it.
But it was the day of, if you're looking for an email, it was the day of our last meeting, the 5th, whatever. So, those are just some samples from other towns.
Is there any other business to come before us tonight? All right, how about a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
No flies on you.
I
Yeah,
didn't write it down.
that was the second.
Oh, I got it, no
Yes.
problem.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and we're adjourned at 7:30 PM.
Goodness, I'm out of here before my